Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fire and Pod, brought to you by Silent Podcasts. We are a podcast where we recap all things House of the Dragon for you. I am Katie, and I am here again with my co-host Chanelle, and our guest Javier is back for the second week in a row. How are you guys?
Good.
So excited to be talking about it. We're here a little later than usual because typically we're here on Wednesdays, but we're here a little earlier than usual because it's 7 p.m. Eastern. So it feels weird to still have sun out and be talking about this show, but I'm excited. How are you guys? I know I asked that already, but
Yeah.
how did you guys feel about this episode? Are you
Loved it.
anything you want to say before we jump into the overall recap?
I loved it. I always love a good Game of Thrones battle scene, and this definitely lived up to, the battle hype that we've had from, the Game of Thrones season. So I'm excited to talk about this. And also just the turmoil and the politics and all of that. It just had a little bit of everything.
It did.
I agree. I'm very excited. Last week we were talking about we need big action, we need dragons, we need etc. So I think we got most of what we wanted. So I'm very excited to get into this episode.
Yeah, I feel like halfway through the episode, I was like, oh, I guess maybe that was a red herring at the preview of last week because it seemed like we were going to get a battle, and then no, we got what we came for. We waited, and it was worth the wait. So we can go ahead and we can jump in and just start talking through it. I was saying before we went live that originally I was going to say maybe we should just go off vibes and not necessarily follow the structure of the episode, but then when I went upon a rewatch, I was like, oh no, there's enough here to really talk about in detail.
Totally.
So I will say, I don't know about you guys, but I did skip the intro this week, and I never used to skip the intro on Game of Thrones, but I skipped it this week because I'm like, this is just a family tree flowing through the streets of Volantis. It's not going to show me anything exciting. Did it hit for you guys this week? Because it's just not hitting for me.
I just see, the thing is, it's always the same thing until something major happens,
right?
Like Game of Thrones. So if it's the same thing, yeah, I can totally see why you would skip through, because it's okay, I've seen this before, until something significant happens and something may change and the animation may change. I'll come back to it later.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that.
Yeah, no, same. I'm big on skipping intros whenever I watch shows. I'm so glad that's an easy function nowadays on Netflix and everything. The intro has to be amazing for me to watch it over and over. Some animes that I watch have some great intros that I rewatch, but other than that, most intros I skip.
Yeah. The old Game of Thrones intro I usually watched fully through just because it would always kind of tell us where this episode was going to go. But maybe, Chanelle, you're right. Maybe I should keep my eye on it just in case something does get changed midway through, or maybe when we jump forward in time, we'll get something different.
Exactly. Maybe when there's a big time jump to come back. Yeah.
All right, I'll revisit it next week, see how we feel. But we do get another open to we're with the crab feeder again, and it's kind of a brutal war scene. It seems things have progressed pretty swiftly and negatively for our friends the Sea Snake and Daemon. We see ships burning, and they have the Sea Snake's sigil. This is clearly not going well. And the crab feeder is mid crucifying a dude who's just well, my prince is gonna come for you, don't worry. And then Daemon comes in, and Daemon is just crab feeder, come out and play, doing his best warrior's impression. And it doesn't go so well, but he seems like he's having a great time doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's bred for war, he's all about it. Unfortunately, I don't know how long they've been dealing with Daemon and his whole crew, but at this point they figured out their strategy of oh, dragons are here, gonna go hide in caves now. Can't get me in a cave.
Exactly. They're behaving like crabs. They just go back into their sand, they go back into their home, and they hide. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great scene to start the episode. I will say I was cracking up though at the guy was rooting for Daemon.
Yeah.
Come on, Daemon, you got this, man. You got this thing with Prince. And then the dragon just squishes him. I'm like, oh, that is embarrassing. That was so
rough.
That was
rough for our guy. He was right here, Prince, come save me. Squash. But that's a better way to go than getting eaten alive by crabs, at least.
Yeah.
So it worked out for him.
Probably quicker than.
For sure. So from there, we jump ahead and we're at a party. It's been 3 years. There's a baby. There's a pregnant Alicent, a married king. We're way far ahead of what we thought we would be. Last week we jumped ahead 6 months, and here we're 3 years ahead of where we left off last time. So we didn't get to see the wedding between the king and Alicent. We didn't get to see the birth of Aegon. It's his second birthday, his second name day. What do you guys think about this huge jump?
I think that's actually good because I feel like there isn't much in between. We don't need to see the wedding happen or anything like that. Like, it's just straight to the point. And even though you didn't see the in between, you could feel the in between, if that makes sense. Like, you can feel like the tension and everything like that. So you could actually feel it just on their faces that, between these however many years, I guess 2 years now, it's been a lot and it's at a boiling point. So they did a really good job with kind of showing that without having to show the in-between stuff.
So the way I feel about the time jump is that it ended up working out in this case.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out for House of the Dragon because we're so early on in the show. So we're not like, we don't really, I feel like, at least for me, like, I don't really have any expectations of how like the pacing should go for a show.
Yeah.
Because I remember in Game of Thrones, one of the biggest issues with seasons like 7 and 8 was the pacing. Like, it used to take a whole season for like Daenerys to do one thing. And then in season 7, she was flying from the wall to King's Landing to there. So like pacing was an issue with Game of Thrones. So at first, same thing with House of the Dragon, I was a little concerned about the 2-year jump. But I agree with Chanelle. Like, you can kind of feel the energy, the angst, and like in the room, and like they did a good job of, the episode did a good job of like showing how these 2 years have impacted some of these relationships. And like I said, since we're not like that attached to the show or to like the pacing yet, we can kind of get used to this. Like, they're going to keep doing these time jumps because they did a 6-month jump, and now we know they're going to do another big jump. So maybe this is just something that House of the Dragon is going to do, and hopefully they keep on doing it like this and keep doing it well, because I know pacing could be a big issue for these kinds of shows.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest difference here is that they're letting us know. Obviously, there's context clues. Alicent is pregnant. There's a baby. But they are giving us a heads up of how much time has passed. So it sounds like there was the wedding, and then Aegon was born. So I think it's been about a total of 3 years. And then, I think what Game of Thrones didn't do is that, first of all, they just kept changing the timeline. It felt like you said, Javier, it felt like they were taking one season just to like walk across a city, and then the next season they were like literally time jumping all over the place. So it feels like they're grounding us, at least by telling us how long that it's taking for some of these things to happen. I'm used to Game of Thrones weddings being large events, but I guess this one was mostly uneventful, so we didn't have to see it, which is probably for the best given how past weddings have gone. So I think it's interesting, and I think I kind of like that they're jumping ahead but giving us all of these major story points and these elements as we go before we get to this future state, which is going to be interesting. So Otto and another member of the small council are discussing naming Aegon heir, but Otto is kind of saying, like, the king is not going to do this on his own. He's really not going to be willing. So it seems like not too much has changed with Viserys here. He's still set in his ways. People still seem to be trying to manipulate him for their own benefit. Nothing has changed with Otto. He's still the hand of the king. And while this is happening, I think his name is Tylan Lannister comes in, and he shares information from the Stepstones and says it's urgent. And Viserys is like, listen, it's been 3 years. This war's been going on. I don't really care. I'm celebrating my baby's birthday, so you can keep it. So this is another, I think, sign that this war is really not going well. That, people are coming in and interrupting a party, like, hey, this is getting really bad. So things just keep kind of building on each other to give us a picture of the situation that's going on in the Stepstones.
Yeah, it's a real mess.
Yeah, really.
But then again, showing weakness of a king where, well, it's my baby's birthday. Like, leave me alone. Like,
right.
Hello.
It's like, it's a celebration, bitches. I'm not.
It's the realm. About this. The realm needs you.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it was definitely, just kind of showing again Viserys' weakness, and like, like he just kind of wants to do his own thing at the worst times.
Yep.
When it's not the right time for it. So it kind of just adds to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have more talk about his weaknesses later. Actually, I wanted to go back to last episode where Rhaenyra goes and gets the egg. That's actually a change from the books.
Oh.
It's actually Viserys that goes and gets the egg from his brother.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because Rhaenyra's only like 8. So
she's in the book.
8 years. She's 8 years old in the book or something like that. So yeah, because I was like watching a thing on it because of some of the symbolism, whatever, which we'll talk about later. But I was like, oh, interesting. So that was one change, and I forget what the other change. Oh, actually, Rhaenyra is actually younger than the niece that they were trying to betroth to him. Yeah, she's actually technically younger than her.
Oh, so that was going to be my follow-up question. Yeah, because I was like, if she's 8, then how old does that make Lena?
She's younger.
So she's older.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm surprised they didn't time jump them both, which is really, really interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to give those little tidbits of things that I was like learning and stuff. But anyways.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah, but so much weakness he shows.
Yeah.
That's very interesting because it makes me think now, like, I feel like that would have been a moment to show Viserys' strength. Like, okay, he got the egg. So I feel like now it makes me think that now the show's even trying to convince me even more that this guy's a weak king. So it's very interesting to hear that little tidbit because I would have never imagined the Viserys we know now does not seem like the Viserys who would go to get the confront Daemon so like that. So definitely interesting to hear that they changed that up a little.
Yeah, I think.
And he doesn't have his dragon in the show anymore, right?
Yeah, I don't think he has his, or he's not riding dragons at least anymore.
Yeah, very interesting. That's an interesting change. Interesting. Well, at this party, Viserys he's very preoccupied with where Rhaenyra is. He can't find her. She's not there. She's not celebrating. And Tylan keeps telling him all of these details about what's going on at the Stepstones, and he just is preoccupied on where is Rhaenyra? Where is Rhaenyra? So we cut to Rhaenyra at the Godswood Tree, and she's studying, and she has a bard there singing a song to her, seemingly like the same song over and over again while she's studying. And former bestie, current pregnant queen, Alicent, approaches her, and the bard kind of stops, and she's like, did I tell you to stop? And then he stopped anyway. And it was just, she kind of like, Alicent really flexed here her rank on Rhaenyra. I wasn't really here for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's showing like maybe foreshadowing a little bit, like just so you know, I'm the queen. Right. Maybe she's just also frustrated because it's like, you know, she has to deal with the push and the pull of the king, her husband, and her former friend. I'm assuming they're not friends anymore. It's her son's birthday. She's being disrespectful, so she's kind of flexing a bit. So I feel like it may foreshadow like time, like later in time, like maybe it's just like a boiling point or something like that, you know. But it's just, it makes sense. Like she's just like, I've had enough. And her father's probably driving her nuts, or like her husband's probably driving her nuts. How could he not be? So she's like, just come in so we can just get this whole spectacle over with at this point. So I get it.
Yeah, I definitely was like, oh, this is Alicent being messy right now. Like Alicent just felt the need to flex a little bit. But also I feel like Rhaenyra was not petty enough for me because I would have been like, I got a dragon. Like, who you gonna listen to now? Like, what's Alicent gonna do? Like, so I wish Rhaenyra would, but I get it. Like, I agree with Chanelle. I think like it's Alicent like kind of being frustrated at the situation. It's her son's birthday, and I also feel like part of it is also Alicent kind of missing her friend because you can obviously tell that like the bonds between her have changed a lot in these past 2 years. Yep. So maybe Alicent's also like kind of like, you know, like projecting her emotions through this action that like, I'm not happy the way things are, but like I kind of, you know, that's another vibe I got, that she kind of misses her friend, but like she's annoyed that they haven't really been able to talk. So
yeah, totally. And she kind of even says that, right? Like she requests that the king wants her to come on the hunt. Rhaenyra says, no, I want to stay here. And she's like, you know, your father really wants you to come. And Rhaenyra basically says like, is it an order of the king? And Alicent says, yeah. And she closes the book and she kind of storms away. But Alicent is kind of like, well, Rhaenyra, it doesn't have to be, like things needn't be this way. But you made them this way by your choices. Like maybe if you would have been honest with your friend and told her what was going on with her dad, which like, of course it's her dad and it's like a weird situation. So she probably wouldn't have been okay with it anyway, but you only made it worse by doing this all in secret and then marrying your best friend's dad, who also happens to be the king, making you queen. It's pretty wild. Imagine your best friend becoming your stepmother.
Ugh.
It's weird.
That wouldn't work for me.
No, it wouldn't work for me either. It would not work for me either. So then we see them in the carriage on the way to the hunt, and Viserys makes a comment to Rhaenyra about bearing him a grandchild. And this is the first of many times this episode where we talk about Rhaenyra continuing the line, Rhaenyra getting married, Rhaenyra being betrothed. So this is foreshadowing to the rest of the episode. There is something that Rhaenyra says when Viserys invites her out on the hunt, and she says something like, boars squeal like children when they're being slaughtered, and she finds it discomforting. And that's an interesting thing given what happens later in the episode with the boar. So I thought that was just an interesting line that they included there. But Viserys just continues to remind her of her duties. And that's another thing, too, that keeps coming up. Like, these are your duties as a princess. These are your royal duties. So she again reminds him, no one's here for me. Like, they're here for your son. No one's here for me.
Yeah, I feel like she's just like, well, the squeal like a child, I feel like it's just her being like, the squeal of my brother, like, you know, like everything just irritates me about children right now, so I'd rather not do this whatsoever. Like, she's just fed up.
Yeah,
which I get. Yeah, because it's like she could feel like the whole realm not behind her at this point, and now this child has come, and it's like, well, it's over. You know, she does want to rule. I know she does. So, and I feel like she'd be a great ruler. She's much stronger than her father is.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's a comment towards like her brother really more than an actual boar.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm very interested to see how Rhaenyra's relationship with her brother develops over time. Because I feel like Rhaenyra's not a mean person. She's irritated right now, and I also have to remind myself that she is also a teenager, so like she's also not an adult yet for her to like react certain ways, to like blame this kid for something that he doesn't have anything to do with. So I feel like over time it's gonna be interesting to see like Rhaenyra, because I can't imagine her not liking her brother, like the character she is. So it'll be interesting to see how that relationship develops, like what relationship they have. So I'm definitely curious to see how that goes on over time, especially when the time jump happens. He's gonna be a lot older. So we're going to see what their relationship is after that point, which should be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's taken everything in my being to not Google what happens to Aegon. And I'm like, I just can't do it. And I realize that now there's a second season of this show, so I'm still not going to be able to Google after the season's over unless I want to just completely give in to the spoilers, which I did end up doing for Game of Thrones. So we'll see if I give up, but I'm dying to know what happens with this little baby. But yeah, I think, for Rhaenyra, she just feels like she's completely alone and she's completely isolated. Chanelle, like you mentioned, like the whole realm is against her. Everybody around her father, who really was her father was her only supporter, and so was Alicent, and now they're together. So those were the only people that she had. She hasn't spoken to her uncle in years. Like, she's just completely alone. So I really feel for her here, especially going to this big show for Aegon's second birthday. I mean, that just has to be completely and totally isolating. And we see her kind of isolate herself later on in the episode. But I just feel for her. She's definitely going through it right now, especially as a teenager.
Yeah.
So they get to the party. It's a huge party. It's like kind of ridiculous how large this party is for this 2-year-old child. All of the royal houses are there. They have representatives there. And Rhaenyra ends up going into I guess it's like the main area of the party where the king is, and she's walking through and just taking everything in, and we see Jason Lannister giving her the eyes, and we see Viserys notice, and then we kind of cut away, but obviously there's more to come with this. But Jason Lannister, I'm out on this guy. I'm out on the Lannisters in general, but like, this guy seems like a douchebag.
Oh yeah, no, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the moment I saw him, I was like, this man is going to be musky all season. Like, I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
And Rhaenyra felt that too. She was just like, boy, please.
And I'm glad Viserys felt it too, because I would have been so annoyed if Viserys would not have reacted the way that he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really appreciated his pettiness later on. That was pretty great. That was the one moment where I'm like, okay, Viserys, like, I'm on your side right here.
Agreed.
So the ladies are all sitting around hanging out. They're gossiping. Rhaenyra walks in and they're discussing the war. Alicent is there as well. And they're pretty much criticizing the war in general. And they're pretty much just saying, like, Rhaenyra, you're the princess. Like, what's your insight? It's your uncle. And she's like, listen, I've never been there. I don't know how I could have an opinion on the Stepstones. I don't know anything about it. And they say, you know, well, it's your uncle. He's leading the charge. And she said, I haven't spoken to him in years. And they do say, yeah, since you were named heir over him. And Allison does have her back here, which is, I think, Javier, is what you were saying is right. It's like she's trying to make these like little inroads to repair this relationship with Rhaenyra. And she says Daemon made his choices and that Rhaenyra is more suited to the role. So Allison really had Rhaenyra's back here, even though she's the mother of the firstborn son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like they're still young, right? I feel like she's still torn between her you know, friend and her father. It's not really the king, it's her father and Rhaenyra at this point, or even the king. Because I feel like she has the pressure of her father being like, you know, he needs to be king, like he needs to be king, and she's just, I don't think she wants her son to be king, like at this point, you know, like what mother would like have this child just born into responsibility. So maybe she's just pushing for it to see, you know, like, let's try to just keep it on that path. I could just live my cushy life with my children and not have to worry about any of this. And, you know, so it could be that. It could be the, she still wants that friendship because they're still young. It could be a bunch of things.
Yeah, no, it almost feels like she wants like a family unit.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I really liked Allison. Like, she stood up for Rhaenyra there. And again, their relationship is clearly going to be a tumultuous one. But I guess another thing that this scene kind of made me think and like brought to my mind was, I mentioned it last week, but I'm really interested to kind of want to hear how Allison is feeling about this whole situation, because I don't feel like we know, is she happy? I mean, she doesn't seem happy, but I kind of want to know her actual thoughts on like, how does she feel about being queen now? How does she feel about her son? Is she literally just doing this for her dad, or does she also have some, you know what I'm saying? So like, I really wish we could get more insight into how Allison feels about her current life, and hopefully in the next few episodes we do. But like, that's what this made me think. Like, how exactly does Allison feel? And like, what is kind of, I want to know more about her mindset.
Yeah, I would love to know more about what she's really feeling and what she's thinking, and if she's happy in this marriage, if she's really, like you said, just really doing this because her father continued to push her and then Viserys chose her. Like, is this all one big Otto Hightower manipulation tactic that she's just a pawn in? I think that's how it definitely started, but I would love to know like her mindset as she continues to grow as the queen and continues to go through this marriage. I mean, at this point it's 3 years in, and it doesn't seem like, I mean, we saw a few scenes of her and Viserys together, but it doesn't seem like they're in love with each other. I mean, he probably loves her, but it doesn't seem like she's super in love with him like his first wife. You know, you could tell that there was love there and that he really cared for her and that she cared for him.
It's the love of his life, right?
Yeah.
So this was just out of necessity, really.
Yeah,
totally. So Rhaenyra does get a little sassy here. Lady Redwine pretty much says the crown is at war, or Rhaenyra really says the crown isn't at war, and Lady Redwine mentions, well, the crown is at war, but your father refuses to admit it. And she says to her, how have you served the realm, Lady Redwine? By eating cake. And I was like, you're a boss. Maybe not the best political move, but I loved it. She's just had it at this point. She's just over this day.
Love it.
It was a good moment. I like that moment.
Yeah, me too. So then she goes outside, and this is when Lord Jason Lannister introduces himself to Rhaenyra, and we find out that his brother is Tylan, their twin brother, and he starts talking about Carstley Rock, and he's selling the scenery to her, talking about how beautiful it is, and then he says that he could make a dragon pit, and she says, well, what do you need that for? And he says, to house dragons, of course. I would do anything for my queen or my lady wife. Like, bro, you're literally just being like, hey, my name's Jason. I'm going to build a pit for your dragons because you're about to be my wife. Like, what? You're not even going to try and like get to know her a little bit?
He's a mess.
Scum. So she goes back inside and she immediately gets into a fight with Viserys about this very publicly in front of everybody. And even it's like one of those record scratch moments, like everybody stops talking and they're just listening to them. And then Otto is like, excuse me, sir, we have to go hunting. And he kind of puts a stop to it. But from there, she gets on her horse and she just rides off into the Kingswood. She just is out, and Sir Kristen Cole realizes that she's leaving, and he takes off on horseback behind her. And they stop at a certain point, and they just, they get along with each other, and we get to see them bond a little bit, which is very nice. And she says to him pretty much that she's toothless. A lot of people would want to be queen, but she has no power, essentially. And he gives her a really nice compliment, saying, she not too long ago had the power to write his name in the book and appoint him to Kingsguard. And that's the highest honor that any Cole has ever known. So he would hardly call that toothless, and basically says that everything he has that he owes to her, which was very sweet. I love their relationship. I really like the two of them together.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see like how it progresses, because I guess he watches her and stuff too. So, at least someone has her back.
Yeah.
It seems, because I feel like she feels like no one does at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see that Rhaenyra has at least one person in her corner that, like, it seems like Cole will do like whatever for her. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to develop. Is it going to be more of like my knight and me, or is it going to be like a love thing? We still don't really know yet, so we'll see how that develops as well.
Yeah, even if it just remains a friendship, I think it's nice to see her have this bond with him, because like we said, she's just been alone this whole time. So it's nice that she gets to kind of let her hair down a little bit and just escape the madness and spend some time with someone that seems to really care for her and respect her, because she's not really getting a lot of respect from a lot of other people.
Yep.
So while they're there in the woods, Viserys is at the king's men basically are out hunting in the woods for a white hart, which is just basically a white steed, and it's a really symbol of royalty. It used to be kind of like the king of the Kingswood, like the royal animal of the Kingswood before the dragons came along, and everyone is saying like this is a sign that this white steed is showing up on Aegon's day. Like, this is a sign, royalty is here. The seven has sent him. This is incredible. So basically they're just like tracking his path and trying to find him, essentially. And Viserys just is getting wasted. He doesn't even really seem to care. He's just like pounding wine, and just like refilling, chugging it back, refilling, chugging it back, refilling. He's like not really caring that much about this hunt. He's having a bad day.
Aren't we all? Honestly, weakness again. Like, he just wants to get out of the situation, so he just drinks a bunch of wine because he's like, I'm over it.
Don't want to. The most relatable he's been so far.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. I've been like, I feel like a lot of people have been there, the holding the wine, not being able to put it down because you're just too lit. Like, I think a lot of people have been there. So, and also I don't know if we're going to get into, I'm assuming we're going to get into what happens with the Lannister dude again, because I thought it was hilarious as well.
Yeah, let's jump into that. So Jason Lannister comes inside and he presents him with this spear in honor of Aegon, and he wants him to use it for the hunt. And Viserys is kind of looking at it and he's like, wow, thanks, like, this is great. And he kind of just like puts it away, and he Jason asks the king to take Rhaenyra as his wife here, essentially, and just says that the Lannisters will offer the crown strength. And Viserys is like, oh, do you think that House Targaryen wants for strength? And Jason Lannister is like, well, if someone offered you more dragons, would you not take them? And this is just going left here. Viserys is like, oh, do you have dragons to offer?
Dragons?
And I was like, okay, Viserys is not playing with this guy right now.
You need to get the hell out of here now.
Get out of his face. Take a hint. No. And Jason basically says, well, Rhaenyra can take a seat at Casterly Rock without shame, and she'll be greatly compensated for her loss in station. So Viserys is like, what loss in station? And Jason is like, well, if you were to name Aegon as your heir. And Viserys is like, well, when would I be doing that? And Jason is kind of like, well, we all assumed that you. And he's like, oh, all of you assumed? So you're all are your bannermen questioning my decision, and it's your duty to report rebellion within the realm to me. And Jason's like, whoa, like, I don't really know what I was saying. And Viserys ends this off by saying, I did not decide to name Rhaenyra my heir on a whim, and all the lords of the kingdom would do well to remember that. Thanks for the gift. And I was like, all right, am I going to stand King Viserys drunk king, maybe drunk King Viserys.
Maybe we want drunk king. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
agreed. That was a moment I was like, okay, Viserys, if you gave me more of this energy,
yes,
maybe I'd want more you as king and like enjoy your presence a lot more. And you know, it was great to see him finally have some like a backbone and like say something.
Awesome. Yeah.
Where has this been with the council this whole time? Why is he letting all of them run all over him when like just this douchebag Lannister comes and he's able to just shut him down right away? We want more of this. Give him more wine.
More wine.
Yeah, this was probably my favorite part of the episode. But then Otto just slithers on in. I cannot stand this guy. Every episode, the first episode I was like, okay, this guy's interesting. And now just every episode, I just hate him more and more. He's the worst. And he starts talking about Rhaenyra getting married again. And he's like, you know, she doesn't like Jason, whatever. And Viserys says, you know, she'll get married eventually. She'll follow your command. And he says, well, I don't want to command her, Otto. I want her to be happy. And then he's like, well, here's an idea for you. Why don't you have her marry your 2-year-old son that we're celebrating right now?
Oh,
and he just kind of like laughs. He like looks and then looks again and he laughs. And it's just like, this is a mess. Every episode we get into like a more problematic relationship than the last episode.
He's 2
years old.
These people are sick. Some of these people
it's her brother.
Sick. I'm almost shocked. Like if this was real life, like Otto would have gotten a fist right away. Like the fact,
yes,
if Viserys would have thrown wine or something at him, I would have been like, yes, Viserys, like he deserves it, because that is just heinous to even say that. I could not imagine that.
That would have turned me off Otto right there. Like that would have showed
yes.
his intentions like immediately. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, like how is Viserys blind to this guy and how calculating he is?
Yeah, because there's other options. Like he could have thought of something much better than this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, which we'll find out later by someone else. But like, you know, it's just, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know what is going on with Otto. Like, he needs a drink too. Go have a drink. Viserys was not here for this. And he says, I came in here to hunt, not be suffered by all this fucking politicking. And Otto leaves and we fill up the cup again. And he's looking at Alicent and he makes that like almost the same smile that Daenerys made in that episode where she's like very pursed lips. And he's just like very like, I don't know how to explain it. But if you're looking at me in the video, you'll see me like a very
People know. I feel like people know the Daenerys meme of her like it's so good.
Very much the same vibe. Very much the same vibe. So Viserys is just, as he fills up his wine, his patience is also getting full. He's done. He's done. Alicent is kind of keeping her eye on him though. She sees that he continues to drink. Sir Lionel Strong then comes up. Viserys cannot catch a break. He does seem though to be a little bit more of a trusted ally of Viserys, and he, you know, asks a little bit like, do you want to hear my opinion on the matter of Rhaenyra getting married? And Viserys is like, let me guess, your son, the greatest knight in the realm. And he's like, actually, you flatter me, but no, that's really not what I was going to say. And he suggests, same thing I suggested to you 3 years ago, that the advice you didn't take, I'm going to offer the same thing. The Sea Snake has a son, Lenor. And you can do the same thing I told you that you should have done 3 years ago. This will strengthen the bond between your houses that's clearly broken. They're the richest house in the realm. They're pure Valyrian blood. They share, you share family with your cousin. He also has a dragon, which we saw later, spoiler alert. And this would be a great match. And he also says, you must, of course, pray that he survives the fighting in the Stepstones. And Viserys does seem to appreciate this a little more because someone's actually giving advice and not trying to further themselves ahead. And he kind of gives him like a pat on the chest and continues to walk out.
Who said that again? Who
Lionel
suggested?
Strong?
Okay, yeah, because I was like, who the heck is this person? I don't know who you are.
He's like I don't know his official name, but he is responsible for law, I think. He like the Lord of the Laws or something. I don't know what he's called.
I'm like, where did you come from?
Master of Laws.
Who are you? Where have you been? Why are you the voice of reason? You should be the hand. Excuse me.
Right. He should be. I think I said that I hated him last episode because I just didn't like the way that he looked, but now I like him. I think that he's the only one looking out for our friend King Viserys here.
For the realm and not
Agreed.
himself.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, see, great suggestion because one, I think I'm not sure what their age difference is, but
They
it's
seem
pretty
to be the
close.
same age.
Yeah, they seem to be close in age, and they got that strong Valyrian blood, so like this
I
makes
mean, he's
much more
not
sense.
2.
Yeah, he's not
So
2,
that's a
he's not
bonus.
12.
Yeah. So the
You know?
bonus and a bonus.
Big bonus.
Yeah, he's not a douchebag like our Lannister friend. I mean, he's
Well, we'll see.
cute. We see him
Yeah.
later. He's
Yeah.
handsome.
Yeah.
He seems like a good match.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
guess
I
we'll
don't know
see if he's a
anything about
douche.
his. I don't actually know anything about his temperament, but
Yeah.
like this is not a spoiler. Like I don't even know what he'll be
Yeah.
like.
I mean, any suggestion would be better than Aegon at this point, though. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
A
yeah, we're really
2-year-old?
scraping the
Any
bottom of
day.
the barrel with that.
Yeah.
Really rough. So we jump ahead then to the woods, and it's nighttime now, and Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole are sitting at a fire, and Kristen Cole is like, we got to get back to camp. And she's like, I really just want to stay here. And then she says to him, like, do you think the realm will ever accept me as their queen? And he says, well, they'll have no choice to, princess. And then they hear some stirring around the horses, and we're kind of led to believe that maybe it'll be the white hart that comes up, but it is actually a boar. And it storms at them. Kristen Cole stabs it, but it doesn't kill the boar. It tackles Rhaenyra, and she's very close to getting mauled by this boar. Like, this boar is not happy. He's very annoyed. And then, Kristen Cole stabs it. Then the boar kind of, like, falls next to Rhaenyra, and then it, like, sits up, and she takes her dagger out, and she takes out all of her aggression on this boar. She's just stabbing the hell out of it, making sure that it's dead. She's covered in blood. And Chanelle, I think what you said earlier is totally true. Like, the comment that she made about the boar being like a screaming child, and that it's terrible to listen to. I feel like she's taking all of her aggression out about that child on this boar. Like, she's just taking out every piece of frustration that she had in her.
Yeah, no, totally. It's just you could feel all her frustration in every stab of this boar.
Yep.
Yeah, that was wild. Like, seeing that scene, and then just like seeing that side of Rhaenyra, like, she really had a lot of anger. Like, okay, Rhaenyra might have a little bit of a violent side in her. Like, okay, Rhaenyra is not just here to like try to make peace or just be like, like Rhaenyra actually does have like, and it makes sense. Like, she's been going through a lot recently, and it seems like these 2 years have not been easy for her. So this literally feels like a culmination of like even things that we didn't see in these 2 years. Like, she's just like, okay, I need to let it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's been through so much, and she only had one person, which was Alicent, and Alicent really betrayed her, and she's probably been holding so much of this in, and she has to always seem like she's put together because she is still the heir to the throne. If she has these outbursts in front of anybody, like, they already are questioning her, so she's not going to be able to really show how she's really feeling in front of people. And I feel like she was getting close in this episode so many times to just a breaking point, that this is finally the breaking point here. She gets all of these feelings out on this boar, and she probably needed that to happen at some point. She needed a release somehow, whether it's a boar or somewhere else, but she released it. So rest in peace to the boar. That was rough for him. But what are you gonna do? Yeah. So from there, we see Viserys standing at a huge fire, and he's kind of like swaying back and forth. He has more wine in his hand, hammered. And Alicent approaches him, and she asks him if everything is okay. And he says to her that he named Rhaenyra the heir to protect the realm from Daemon. And he says that while many in his line have been dragon riders, only a few have been dreamers. And then he tells her what is the power of a dragon next to the power of prophecy. So he basically tells us here that when Rhaenyra was a child, he saw in a dream, and he says, as vivid as these flames, a male babe was born wearing the conqueror's crown. And I so wanted it to be true for me to be a dreamer. He said he sought that vision again night after night, but it never came, and he poured all of his thought and will into it. And his obsession with this dream killed Rhaenyra's mother. He thought Rhaenyra was the way out of the abyss and grief and regret, and naming her heir would have set things right, but he never imagined that he would remarry. And he says, what if I was wrong? So it sounds like he really was chasing this idea of having a son who would then be king because of this hope that he had, that this dream, which was probably a one-time dream, was really a prophecy, and that he had that power to really dream and prophesize, where it seems like he didn't. So I don't know the history of the Targaryens, or if this is something that that's really special with Targaryens, where they have the power to have a prophecy like this. They mentioned it in episode 1 with A Song of Ice and Fire, and they're mentioning it again. Like, Chanelle, I don't know if you know from just reading some of the books if this is something that certain Targaryens can do or have the ability to do, and if that makes them more royal or powerful than others, or rightful heirs than others.
I don't know if it's like specifically a Targaryen thing, or if it's like just like a Valyrian ethos. There's a lot of like priestesses and priests and like prophecy kind of things happening on the east side. So it may, like, I think some Targaryen, it's just magic in general. Like, we know Targaryens are magic. We know that from like Daenerys literally walking into fire and coming out alive. You know, they can control dragons, they can do all these things, and I think that's more of a Valyrian thing than it is a Targaryen thing in general.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, no, it was interesting to hear like about this prophecy, and yeah, like it's interesting they keep mentioning it. So I agree. That came to my mind too. Like, is this a Targaryen thing? Like, is there something here we're not being told? You know, so I agree. It was definitely interesting to hear that comment from Viserys.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was some lore that maybe we just didn't fully know about, or that's being
totally
kind
possible.
of like the seeds are being planted for us. But it really seems like he was so steadfast in forcing Rhaenyra's mother to continue to carry child, because he wanted this prophecy to be true, even though he was never able to dream it again. So this kind of gives me more insight into Viserys, where he's not really the rightful king. He knows that he's not the rightful king at this point. And, you know, he thought that maybe this dream would come true and he would probably give this son to the realm and they would be wearing the conqueror's crown. And it would be, and it was just a dream, dude. And it feels like he's really coming to terms with the fact that, like, I fucked this all up. I fucked this whole shit up. Only because I was chasing this dream that was never going to come. And this is kind of where he really starts to question, like, maybe I was wrong to name Rhaenyra my heir. I didn't know I would remarry. And maybe this son is the prophecy that I had. So he's going through it. And as they go through it, the horn blows. And we're ready to go kill a stag. Not a white hart, though, because it's not that one.
Yeah. Which is just another sign of just Viserys is a flop through and through. He can't even, the reason he's here, he can't even find it. And as we see later on in the episode, someone does find it and it's not Viserys. So,
well, also they're holding back this stag for him.
Yeah. And
he can't even hunt it himself, you know, like Bracken could, you know.
Right.
And the first hit, he flops completely. Like, they have this thing right here for you. They're telling you, hit it right there.
Literally, right there. Hit it here. And it takes him, what, like 3 tries to finally kill this thing. And you can tell as soon as he sees it, they're like, well, it's not the white one, but it's huge. It's big. You know, it might be brown, but it's big. And he's just kind of like, whatever. Like, add it to the list of things that suck right now. And then he can't even he, like you said, flop. Can't even kill it. This poor stag is suffering while he's trying to take this spear that douchebag Jason Lannister created for him. It's just this was just a rough scene.
Yeah, and you know, the white stag was meant for the true heir, right? And you know, it just shows, or the true king, I should say, or the true ruler, and it just shows that he's not even the true ruler,
right,
out of everything, you know.
That actually, before we move on, that made me earlier, this comment and Katie's comment earlier, just made me think of something. Like, it feels like the prophecy of him prophesizing, okay, I'm going to have a son heir, is kind of like Viserys, like, grasping at the straw that, like, even though I wasn't the rightful king, I could at least give the realm a rightful king. So it's almost like him trying this, like, this prophecy is literally just for him to feel like, okay, I'm not this useless person who should have never had this throne. Like, at least I gave the realm a king that they deserve or that they need, whatever his thought is. So it really is like a full circle moment, that this whole like thing with Aegon and the prophecy is really just more of a reflection of Viserys feeling like he was placed in this position that he didn't deserve.
Yeah, totally. And this is, again, like you said, it's just another like chip on, you know, of just like, you're not the guy, and your son's not the guy. Because right after this, we see Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole. They're looking out. They're kind of on a high point of, I guess, a mountain or a cliff, and they're just looking out at a view. It's morning by this point, and they're just sitting there in silence. She's covered in blood from the boar, and lo and behold, the White Hart just comes walking out very casually and just looks at them. And she's looking over at it. Kristen Cole takes out his sword to hunt it, and she basically just like whispers no to him, and the stag just the White Hart just takes a second and then just runs off into the distance. So I'm glad that the white stag didn't die. Even though these animals are not real, they're CGI. But I would feel bad if the white stag got murdered. But this was the true sign. Like, this is the true sign that she's the rightful heir to the throne. And I think she probably realized that as well. Maybe this is a sign that she needed.
Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it because it's like, it's a good juxtaposition, right? Because early in the episode, we see her killing this boar, brutal, super brutal. But then we see like, this is actually the real Rhaenyra. Like, Rhaenyra's actually like, you know, she's benevolent. Like, she's like, she has a good heart, and her heart was in a good place. She had that moment of like weakness where she felt like she had to let out her anger. But like, she's not necessarily this like brutal, violent person. So it was good to see that juxtaposition of her letting the stag survive.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like she has all of the right temperaments to be a good ruler, right? She's firm when she needs to be firm. She can fight when she needs to fight, and she can be peaceful and benevolent when she needs to be. And she has all of these traits that make her a really great leader and a great ruler. And it almost seems like this gave her almost like a jolt of confidence, or kind of maybe like gave her a reset of her mind, because when she came back into the camp, she walked in with quite a confidence, covered in blood, dragging this boar behind her, and everybody was just totally silent, just like, what? And everyone's staring at her, and she just walks in with her head held high, kind of making a statement like, yeah, I was out all night and I killed a boar and I'm covered in blood and I'm a badass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what about it?
Right.
Better respect me or you're next, like, you know.
Yeah. right it kind of, to me, like, showed her strength a little bit, and I just love that they were all just like silently, like, head turning, like watching her walk. Like, what? This just made quite a statement.
Yeah.
From there, we are back at King's Landing. So we immediately see Otto visiting Alicent in her chambers. And like, from the second he walks in, he's like, how was the hunt? And she's like, yeah, it was great. And he's like, okay, so your son's the king and needs to be the king, and you need to talk to the current king and make sure that he tells him he's the heir, basically. And she pushes back on him a little bit here. He just, like, the manipulation starts immediately the second he walks in. And it's just kind of like, dude, can't you just have a conversation with your daughter without trying to get something out of it? And you know, he tells her that the birth of her son ended 15 years of uncertainty and doubt in the realm, and that he was born to rule the Seven Kingdoms. And he's like, you need to tell Viserys that this is the case, basically. And she actually pushes back on him, and she says, you know, Rhaenyra would be a good queen. And he says it wouldn't matter if she was Jaehaerys himself. She's a woman. Which, like, it just, again, it goes to show that's just the mindset of everybody in this time period, that it doesn't matter that she's going to be a great ruler. It does not matter that she is the rightful heir. It does not none of that matters. She's a woman, so she should not hold the throne. And she says to him, you know, and what of my son? Would you want me to raise a man that would steal his own sister's birthright? And he says to her, it's Aegon being robbed. And she doesn't seem to be feeling this conversation. She doesn't seem to be supportive of what her dad is saying here.
She's over it at this point. Like, I don't think she actually wants her son to be the king at all.
No, it seems like she's really coming into her own as being a queen, and she's taking the role of queen more seriously than maybe her father anticipated her to, or maybe he thought he would be getting this kind of like inside seat with the king through her. But it seems like she's pushing back on that a little bit and taking the role as queen more seriously, and really caring about what's good for the realm and not what's good for her dad, which I'm not really too sure, like, what Otto's angle is here. Like, what are you going to get out of this if Aegon is the king? Like, why do you care so much? Is this going to get you further? Like, I still don't really know what his angle is here.
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point, because that's actually something I was going to bring up. Like, Otto already has the most influence over Viserys. So, like, what is his, I agree, like, what is his motive here to, like, right. Like, I get it, maybe because it's his grandson now. So, like, I guess he would think he would have even more power if it was Aegon. But, like, Otto himself is never gonna be king. So why does it matter if you influence Viserys or if you influence Aegon? Like, you already have Viserys basically on a leash. So like, it's very interesting to see him like pressing this issue. And again, like this again, like Alicent is pushing back, and it gives us a little bit more insight into how Alicent feels about the situation, and that like Alicent is trying to balance like her father's desires with her own desires, with her feelings towards Rhaenyra, et cetera, et cetera. So it's another good scene for Alicent, and like getting a little bit deeper into how Alicent really feels about the whole situation.
Yeah. Exactly. For sure. Chanelle, I don't know if you know any more, maybe non-spoiler territory, but if you know any more about what Otto's trying to do here, or is it because he knows that he can't manipulate either Daemon or Rhaenyra, regardless of whoever was the heir? He probably wouldn't be the hand anymore. Definitely wouldn't be the hand if it was Daemon, and probably not with Rhaenyra. Is it just that he wants to like keep the power that he has, and he feels like maybe he can influence Aegon when he's of age? I mean, Otto's not young.
Yeah, I feel like it's him just wanting, men want to keep their like the men of the council want to keep. Look at Littlefinger, right? True. You know what I mean? Even Varys at one point, like Varys was kind of sneaky and stuff too. It's just like, maybe it's Aegon that he thinks he can control. Maybe he thinks he can control his daughter. His daughter is pretty young still.
Yep.
You know, she's probably still a teenager at this point, right? So, actually, another fun fact: she's actually older than Rhaenyra in the books.
Oh, okay.
She's actually a teenager in the books, so they basically aged them up to be the same age. Anyways,
very interesting.
Anyways, and actually, her father is 28 years old.
Like, okay, this is the most shocking thing to me so far.
Yeah, so Viserys is 28 years old.
And okay, wait.
8, and that's why it's not even so creepy, because it's like, if Alicent was a teenager and Viserys, like, because I was watching like a thing, and they're like, yeah, he's 28, she's 8, she's like a teenager or whatever. But I'm like,
this is the most mind-blowing thing to me of all. But it makes sense
why he's older, because if they aged up Rhaenyra, they have to age up Viserys too, right?
But like, to be in his 60s, he's like in his 60s.
Yeah, he looks like very old.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why they aged him so much, but like, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, it's probably just to keep power. Maybe he's thinking he could control his daughter, and that's why he put her in with Viserys in the first place. But yeah, I will fact check. But according to because I was trying to read behind the board and all that, they're like, yeah, Viserys, like they aged everyone up. Like Viserys is 28 years old and stuff. I'm like, what? Huh?
That is wild to me.
Yeah, that's
completely wild. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Well, anyways, sorry. Come on.
No, please don't be sorry. I'm shocked.
I know.
I love these tidbits, Chanelle. So keep them
coming. Too.
I too. Like little bits of research here and there.
So Alicent here with her dad seems annoyed by this conversation, and he basically says to her, "The road ahead is uncertain, but the end is clear. Aegon will be king, and you must guide Viserys toward reason. He'll never find it on his own." Which no one is giving this guy a chance to do anything on his own. They're pulling him. It's like a tug of war. One person has one arm and the other person has the other arm, and they're just pulling him in all these different directions. But we do see her go to his chambers. I guess it's their chambers. I don't know if they have the same room or what, but he's hungover. He says, "The gods have punished me," which I like. I like that. That was cute. But she says there are things that she wants to discuss, and he brings up Rhaenyra, and he's like, "Oh, let me guess, Rhaenyra." And they talk about her choice to marry, or they talk about her getting married. And she basically says like, yeah, I knew Jason Lannister wouldn't impress her, pretty much. So it seems like he had asked for Alicent's advice on who to set Rhaenyra up with. And she was like, yeah, this guy's it's not going to be impressive. And then she pretty much goes on to say like, Rhaenyra will marry, but you need to let her think that it's her choice. And he does take her advice later on. But he also puts a letter down on the table, and it's pretty much it's Vaemon Valerian Valerian, who is the Sea Snake's brother, and he pretty much just says like, listen, we are running out of everything, we have nothing, this war is going really, really poorly, we need aid. And she says to him, what are you planning on doing here? Like, you should send the aid. And he's like, well, they were two malcontents that doubted me and my decisions. And she says, okay, let me ask you this as like in a more blunt way. Like, what's right for the realm? And it really feels like that's what she's thinking. What's right for the realm? We need to do what's right for the realm here. It's not about you getting slighted. It's about what's right for the realm. Notedly, she doesn't bring up Aegon being the heir. She continues to talk about Rhaenyra getting married, and she does not one time bring up what her father wants her to do. So it seems like maybe she's not as much under his thumb anymore as he thinks that she is. So that was interesting. She seems to be really, when we first met her, she was like picking at her fingers. She was insecure. She was always very anxious. And now it feels like she, at least in this episode, it's a few years later, she does seem a little more confident, and she seems like she's able to have these conversations and give suggestions about what she thinks instead of what her father thinks. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see Allison like coming almost into her own and like being her own person. And I hope we continue to get more of that development for Allison.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I really like to see her thinking.
She's growing a backbone,
Yeah, we love to see it.
However, I will say, first, this may be uncomfortable, so I had to write it down. Her always calling Viserys husband, like, that's so weird to me. Like,
it's so weird. It's because they age them up so much, so it's just like such a throw off,
Yeah, I feel like I've never heard that either. Like someone calling their spouse husband, like
very medieval times.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, it made me every time. So I was like, please just say Viserys, or just don't say a name. Just talk.
Yeah, just talk, or like your grace or whatever.
Yes, your grace or something.
Something, not husband. We don't need to be reminded. We know. Yes. Trust me, we know. It's front and center in our minds. We know.
And we see the belly. So
yes, it's very clear that you are very pregnant, and we know how that happens. Rough. So from there, we get a scene in the council, and we see Rhaenyra there, and Viserys is saying, like, give this to Daemon right away, deliver it directly to him. And he tells Rhaenyra that he has prepared communication to Daemon offering aid. And she says, oh, did he call for it? He said he would sooner die, but that doesn't mean I'm going to allow that. Which is very true. So they have a little bit of a heart-to-heart here. And she's pushing back on him. She still has her guard up with her father because she still feels like she's going to be replaced. And she essentially says that to him. He says to her, Daemon is a thorn in my side enough. Like, must you take after him? And he apologizes about Jason Lannister. And she just says, you mean to replace me? Because he says to her, like, why do you need to resist everything that I say? She says, because you mean to replace me with Alicent Hightower's son, the boy you always wanted. And he then says, you've misjudged me. And they continue to talk about how, as rulers, we need to get married. It is an advantage to marry different houses. You can get different things like strength and money and whatever, armies. And he said, I myself was married to your mother when she was 10 and when I was 10 and 7 of age, which I liked. I like that they say 10 and 7 to signify 17. And she's like, yeah, I've heard the story a million times. But he then says, I loved her and she made a man of me. And which was nice. I think she really needed to hear that. Like, yeah, we were set up, but I loved her. Like she was my true love. She made a man of me. And he said, I do not seek to replace you. And you've been much alone these last few years, alone and angry. And I will not live forever. And I wish to see you contented and even happy. And she basically shoots back at him. And she's like, and you think a man is going to do that? And he says, a family. And she, then she says, what would you have of me? And she says, if you were married for advantage, you would have married Lena Valerian, like it was suggested to you. And he's like, well, you're right. I would have. That's true. I didn't marry for advantage this time. I wanted to choose. And he says, you must marry, strengthen your claim. And he says, as for your match, like, pick one yourself, do it yourself, find out who pleases you. And he says, as I did, meaning Alicent, his second wife, is like who he wanted. He didn't listen to anybody else when he chose her. That's what he wanted to do. And she seems pleased by this and maybe surprised, surprised and pleased. So this was a nice moment, I think. Viserys is kind of gaining some favor in my book here throughout this episode.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Like at this scene, I literally wrote Viserys. I need to give Viserys his flowers. Like,
yes, right.
The guy who was like the person acting for Viserys is also killing it. Like this was such an amazing scene to see this, like the relationship. I feel like honestly, in these past 3 episodes, like some of the best scenes are whenever Rhaenyra and Viserys are interacting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this was just another like amazing scene. The actor playing Viserys is doing a great job of showing Viserys as like his showing the vulnerable side while showing him kind of struggling with being king and being vulnerable. Like, I don't know. I just really had to give the actor playing Viserys doing a really great job. And like, I agree. This was an amazing scene for me. And I really enjoyed seeing this relationship develop. And seeing like Rhaenyra finally getting like, she was a little happy finally at the end of a conversation with her dad and not disappointed. So
yeah. She gets a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this point. Like, it's like they made a deal. Like, he's like, you have to get married. And she's like, okay, but like, I want to pick, like, or I want it to make sense for what I want. And they're like, all right, fine. Like, but you got to compromise, you know, like in some way.
Right. I Javier, totally agree with you. These 2 actors have such great chemistry on screen that they play off of each other so well. I'm gonna this is, I think, probably the main thing I'm gonna miss and probably have the hardest time adjusting to is when we do time jump ahead and the actors change, because I am loving the actress that plays Rhaenyra right now. I'm loving the actor that plays Viserys. I'm assuming he's not going to be with us in the future, but who knows? I don't know. No spoilers. I'm not sure. That's my assumption. So I'm really enjoying these 2 and their scenes together, and it feels like you can really feel their love for each other, but just the elements around them are just kind of like putting this wedge in between them, and he wants to fix it. She is just feeling like his intentions maybe aren't pure, but I really do feel like he just wants her to be happy and wants to do right by her. And then she goes to walk away, and he does turn around and he says, I did waver at one time, but I swear to you now on your mother's memory, you will not be supplanted. So he gives her his word that she's the heir. It's going to be her throne. Like, that's it. You have my word, which was really nice. And he was honest with her. Like, yeah, I did think about it, but I named you as heir and you are the heir.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't go back on it.
Me too.
It's allowed. He's allowed to be. He's allowed to question it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
How could he not with all these people in his ear?
Exactly.
Yeah, and to like go against I mean, it's a shitty tradition, but the first person to break a tradition is always like, you see it in like, if you even take it to like a family situation, like your first person in the family to break like a cycle of toxicity or whatever it is, it's a hard decision to make. Like to us, obviously we're like, yeah, of course, put Rhaenyra, but like in his situation, it probably is a hard decision to like name a woman first for the first person doing it. So like, it's good to see that like he is struggling with this, but like he's still doing what he thinks is right,
Yeah, absolutely. And especially given the fact of how he became king, and it was taken from, his cousin, the queen who never was. It's kind of, it's almost like, he's doing what King Jaehaerys should have done, and he's doing it now and really making the rightful heir. So, as much as as we complain about Viserys, I think he's, like I said, he's gaining favor with me. I think he seems to himself even be growing a backbone. As he loses his patience with the people around him, he seems to just be making his own decisions, and he seems to be doing the right thing. Even though the Alicent decision was a little questionable, he did what he wanted. What can we say?
Questionable if you have context
to
their ages.
Well, yes. Yes. So now we go to the stepstones. Things are going to take a turn here. So things are bad. We're kind of at their war planning council meeting. And they've called to Driftmark for more ships. They're a few weeks away. They have no food. They have no soldiers. They're in dire straits here. And they're saying, they need to continue to press the attack. What is the son's name again? Lionel? Laenor. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
He is basically like, we need to keep pressing, or the brother really is saying like, we need to.
I was going to say his brother is.
Yeah. And Laenor is like, well, the crab feeders have created a choke point. They're going to keep avoiding the dragons because they retreat into their caves. And we need an offering of flesh to bait these crabs to come out of their nests here. It should be Daemon. And then, they're saying like, which man would happily go to his death. The stepstone's son, the sea snake's son is saying, Daemon is the one, and his brother is like, Daemon's the reason that we're losing. And they get into it a little bit. And Laenor is like, well, what role have you played in this council, Uncle, other than being the master of complaints? And I was like, oh, damn.
Well, yeah, no, I like him. I like him so much. He's giving me very, oh my God, I always forget what his name was. Loras vibes. Because he's like young, like a good warrior. You know what I mean? Like, just like sharp. Like, I'm like, oh, yes. Like, he's going to be like really good at battle, you know?
Yeah, he's very cool. So as they're having this conversation, Daemon walks up to this conversation and he's just like a disaster. He seems exhausted. His hair is all tattered. He's covered in blood. He's like, just like tired, taking off his armor. And as he comes up, we see, you know, the messengers from the king. And they're like, oh, hey, Daemon, great timing, by the way, for them. And they're like, hey, this is from the king. And they hand it to Daemon and he quietly reads it. And he just stands there very like sassily reading it with like a little bit of a smirk on his face. And then he hands it back to them. And then he just beats the ever living shit out of the guy who sends him the message, which like, okay, he's just a messenger, like chill. He didn't do anything. But yeah, this is like the kick in the ass, the fire that Daemon needed. This is just another symbol to Daemon of losing. He lost with the dragon's egg and his plan there to pretend to marry. He lost the heir to the throne to his niece. He's losing the war that Corlys pretty much convinced him to take up because he was like, listen, you have dragons and this will prove to the realm that you are the rightful heir and that you earned it. And he's losing. So it's like he just continues to take L's. And now his brother, who pushed him to the side, who he hasn't spoken to in years, is coming to save him. He's like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not allowing this to happen.
Yeah, no, it was very big. Don't shoot the messenger energy. I felt like, come on, like let this man.
I know, that poor guy.
Like, yeah, but he doesn't care. He doesn't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
he's reckless.
Daemon cares about one thing and one thing only, and that's himself and his
absolutely
end goal.
Absolutely. And this lit a fire. So the next thing we see is he's rowing. He's in the water. He's rowing. And we hear the voiceover of Viserys. And it's actually a very nice letter. He's sending 10 ships and 2,000 men on the way to the Stepstones. And he's like, I don't wish to see you fail. I wish to see you succeed. And I want this for the realm. And I'm praying for your safe return. I know we haven't spoken in years, but that doesn't mean that, even though our relationship is strained, that I want you to lose here. Really nice note from Viserys. Again, another thing that Viserys did that I feel like, another notch. Shout out to you. But Daemon goes onto the beach and he has a white flag. He's waving it, essentially surrendering and giving himself up to the slaughter. He's carrying out the plan that the Sea Snake and his family have decided. And he's kind of a madman here. He takes out his sword. He's like holding it. He gets down on a knee. He puts it down. And all of these guys, which is like, why crab feeder are you sending all of your guys out for this one guy? Like, this is the worst idea ever. You're sending your whole army out just to meet this one dude. You're kind of asking for it. But they all come out and they have archers up on the hills and they start shooting Daemon with arrows. Well, before we get there, Daemon is down and he takes out a knife that he has on him, or dagger, and then he starts just like killing people. He's like running through just like murdering people on his own, just taking these people out. He's out of control. So this is like really where we see like Daemon. We saw a flash of it in the first episode with the gold cloaks, but we're really seeing him now just like go for it and just be a completely insane warrior.
Yeah, I think for me, this scene was a scene where I really had to like remember this is like fake TV show. This is fantasy. Yep. Like, come on, I really had to suspend belief that like Daemon could take out all these people. He dodged 1,000 arrows. Like, who is this?
Yes.
Not one arrow hit him until the most convenient time where he has a like. Come on, I really had to suspend like this belief that like okay, fine. Daemon is like this almost immortal being for at least this scene. I was like in shock at that scene. No, but I mean, I did enjoy it, of course. But yeah, I definitely had to be like, I need to remember this is plot. This is plot. This is plot. We cannot have Daemon. He's obviously not going to die here, So
totally.
Yeah, he's a warrior. He really is. He's got that grit, honestly.
Yeah. So he like you said, Javier gets eventually hit by these arrows. These guys on the hills they were on watch for him. And once he came up, they started shooting the arrows. And he then starts to get hit. He gets hit like 3 or 4 times, a few times in the shoulder, one time kind of in the side, another time in his leg. And then he goes under this like random wooden piece of shelter that then is catching the rest of the arrows. And everybody comes out and they start circling around him. And Damon's kind of like, well, this is it for me. And he's holding onto his sword and he gets up and he's ready to take all these people on. This was very Battle of the Bastards kind of to me, with them circling around just Damon alone instead of, Jon Snow and some of his people. But this was very much so they were closing in on him and he was on his own. And they're getting closer and closer. He's getting ready to fight them off. And then we see the army of the Sea Snake, and we see Laenel on his dragon, and all hell breaks loose. Everybody's getting roasted. The dragon just starts roasting people alive, which again, when I was watching this, I was like, how do they know where Daemon is and to not shoot him with fire? Because he's in harm's way here, completely in harm's way. It's chaos.
Yeah.
Absolute chaos.
I love it.
He lucked out. He lucked out here.
I will say that when I saw the dragon, I was super confused. At first,
I was like, who's writing this dragon?
I was like, wait, Rhaenyra? No, this is not Rhaenyra. And then I literally was not till the end of the episode that like I literally Googled like who was writing this dragon. Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
Who was writing
You
this
forgot
dragon.
he was Targaryen, right? Well, he's Valyrian, but like it's a very Targaryen thing. But you forget that he is also half Targaryen,
right?
Right. His mother. Yeah. So he's also a dragon rider. I don't know who he rides. I don't think he was riding. Was he riding?
He wasn't riding Daemon's dragon. I think he has his own dragon. Yeah, I think he has his own dragon.
Yeah. So wild that they have 2 dragons. Like
now we find out they have 2 dragons and they can't defeat. Like it's kind of like, come on, guys, what are we doing? Here? What are we doing? And King Cash in the chat says, does anyone think that the crab guys are trained in shooting arrows? Probably not, which is a good call. I mean, like, where did they find these people from? I have no idea.
Shoot this way.
Even still, I'm like, how are they losing against whatever. But anyway, so the dragons come and they're blasting. He blasts the guys with the arrows. Laenel's having a great time. He's like, woohoo! It's like he's just like having out for a joyride, just roasting people. Oh, great. And Kakash said his dragon is called Sea Smoke, which is actually a very cool dragon name. Love that for him. And the crab feeder is just out there standing there kind of like watching it. And I have a question. Does the crab feeder have grayscale? Or is he just...
Yes, so, I wrote that too. Like he has grayscale, right?
But so when Daemon is grabbing him and dragging his body out, how is he not catching grayscale?
I think if you have like Daemon probably had gloves on, or he was wearing...
I don't know if he had I looked to see, and I was like, I think he's holding him with his bare hand.
That's probably just an oversight, honestly. Or maybe he'll get grayscale later. Who knows? You know?
Oh my god, Daemon, watch out!
I thought you could touch grayscale at least, or is it if you touch it you can get it regardless?
I don't know. I thought the way that Jorah got it was when they were sailing through, where were they, Volantis, and was it or Old Valyria, where they came out from under the water and they grabbed him on the boat. Isn't it because they grabbed Jorah that he got grayscale? I don't remember.
I'm not
but
sure.
I thought it was like transmitted by maybe not,
because they would have experimented on grayscale, like because was it like someone had their grayscale removed? Maybe that was in the book.
Jorah did. Jorah had his grayscale removed in the show. Sam, I think, figured it out.
Yes. Okay. So Sam. So that happened in the books, but it was like way longer in the book. Yeah. So like someone's touching it. So like, you know, who knows? I don't know. They explain it more in the books, but I don't know how much detail around transmission or anything.
Okay. Well, hopefully Daemon's okay. But as all of this fighting is happening, the crab feeder retreats back into his cave, and Daemon's like, not today. And he follows him in. And then we unfortunately don't get to see the encounter, which is a little bit annoying. I'm like, you're making this crab feeder like this big bad, and then we don't even see a bat. Why are we not getting to see Daemon show his full badassery? And why are we not getting to see why the crab feeder is like scary? We just see him standing there like a creep.
Yes,
We see nothing.
literally, this was my biggest gripe with the episode by far.
Yeah.
Like, so this crab guy he's like the bad guy for these first few episodes. They make him this menacing guy, and he does nothing. And we don't even get to see Damon at least struggle a little bit. Like, fine, if he didn't struggle, at least let me see him kill the big bad guy for the first few episodes.
I want to see him split in half. What the hell?
Yeah. Like, great to see the half of the body. Like, okay, that's a cool image, very gruesome, etc. But come on, I wanted to see some fight there. Like, who is, and also like who is? I guess the crab eater is not important. Like, this Prince Jahar is his name. So that was another thing to me that, like, okay, I guess he's not important because he died in episode 3. So I guess we don't need to know anything about him.
Right. And it seems like in the preview, this is kind of setting Damon up to just get his ego filled and have people praise him more. So I guess this was, you know, just a vehicle to get Damon to that point. But I would have liked to know a little bit more. And Kinkash, again, makes another good point in the chat. He was scary because of his army and his torture methods, which makes sense. I mean, he was literally crucifying people and feeding them to crabs. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm disappointed we didn't get to see at least like a face-to-face with them. But Damon comes out dragging one half of the crab feeder's body. His small intestine is just hanging out all over the place. And everybody just kind of stops fighting and they just look at Damon, and that's where the episode ends. So that's it. I mean, this was a cool battle to watch. I always think that Game of Thrones does a really great job in all of their battle scenes. I can't think of one other than The Long Night, which was bad because we couldn't see any of it.
Oh, so dark. Oh my
God. So dark. But every other episode where there's been, you know, a major battle scene, which I don't know if this is major. It was like 5 to 7 minutes long.
Yeah,
but they're always really compelling and really visually very cool, and this one was also. And I was like hyped. When I was watching it the first time, I was like, yes, this is awesome. But I was definitely frustrated that we didn't get to see Damon and the crab feeder meet face to face.
Yeah, agreed.
Any closing thoughts on this episode? It seems like next week we're just getting drama. It seems like there's more just interpersonal drama going on between everyone, and Damon's back in King's Landing causing havoc once again.
No, I thought it was a good episode, like good storytelling. I'm going to be really upset when the actor who plays Rhaenyra, you know, is gone.
She's so good.
Yeah, I already know the actress who's going to play older Allison, and I'm really excited for her because I've seen some of the stuff she's in and she's great. So I'm excited to see her older self, but like I'm really sad to see Rhaenyra not be Rhaenyra anymore. So
me too.
Do we know is the time jump next episode, or we're just
I think we have a couple more. So. I think
good.
Yeah, I saw a preview and it's still the young Rhaenyra. So, but you know, might be a halfway point that they switch it over or something. Might be the end.
No.
Who knows?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I know this season is 10 episodes and we're about to hit episode 4. So we might have like 1 or 2 more. Like you said, maybe it's the half, maybe episode 5 will be the first, or maybe especially now that it's, well, I guess this show's already done filming and shot and edited, but knowing that we have a season 2 coming, it seems like maybe they probably banked on the fact that there would be a season 2. So maybe they're going to give it to us closer to the end. I don't know. We'll see. But I agree. I'm really sad to see our current Rhaenyra go. And again, Viserys, like, again, I don't know. I'm assuming he's not going to be with us when they get older because he's already kind of got some gaping wounds that were not addressed this episode. But I'm even surprised he made it 3 years from where we first met him. So like every day is a gift, Viserys. Every day is a gift. Just hold on for us one more week.
I mean, overall, I enjoyed the episode. I had my little gripes here and there, a little bit of the pacing, a little bit with that final battle with Prince Jahar. But overall, I do think it was a good episode. I got the dragons, I got the fire, I got the fighting, I got some good interpersonal relationships, more great Viserys and Rhaenyra scenes. So overall, it was a really good episode, and I'm definitely excited to see what happens moving forward, to see the turmoil that's going to be next week with Daemon back in King's Landing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see how that turns out, so...
Yeah, same. I think if I had to give like a winner of the week, it would be to Viserys. I think he really showed us like where his loyalties lied, and I think it is really toward the realm, and he's kind of pushing all these people aside and finally saying like, I'm just going to make the decision for myself. He did say something, and I forgot to mention this earlier when we were talking about it, but when he was talking to Alicent, he was like, no matter what decision I make, you know, if I do something good, someone else is going to be pissed off at me, basically. So he knows that, like, you know, if I make one person happy, I'm just going to get someone else mad. So I think he's finally after all these years growing a backbone. So he wins my week this week, I think.
I agree. Yeah. Like, he gets my most improved character. Like,
yes.
So if there's a weekly most improved character, it would be Viserys for me this week.
Yes, same.
Good growth. Totally.
Yeah. Okay, well, this was really fun. Thank you guys so much for chatting through this episode again with me. I'm loving just watching this and discussing it with you guys. If there are any last thoughts, feel free to share them. Otherwise, feel free to tell the people where they can find you. Chanelle, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, no last thoughts. I'm really enjoying watching this and doing a deep dive of everything. It's always really fun for me to go through Game of Thrones history. But yeah, you can find me. I always say the 3 T's: Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I'm mostly on Twitch at CoderGirlChan on all 3. Yeah, you can just check out my Twitter to see what I'm on or what I'm up to and all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, you can find me on Twitter at _thestarboy. I tweet a lot about stuff. If you want to catch me in the next half hour at 9 p.m., there's going to be a lot of Big Brother because we get a good double eviction episode. So expect that if you follow me. And yeah, no, I had a great time talking about this episode, and I loved Chanelle's little tidbits of things that give us spoilers, but giving us more context, because it really does add like a different lens to how to view the show. So thanks for that, Chanelle.
No problem.
Yeah, it was another good episode, and looking forward to the next one.
Yes, same. Totally agree with all of that. You can find me on Twitter at RealSlimKatie. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv /RealSlimKatie with an underscore at the end. You can also catch me here on Silent Podcast talking about a bunch of stuff. TJ Hates Quitters is going to be coming to a close soon for the Challenge USA. We have the finale next week. We're also going to cover this challenge documentary that's coming out, but after that we're going to go on a little bit of a hiatus. Big Brother also coming to an end in a week or two. I think the 25th is the final episode, or the 24th or something like that. So we'll be wrapping that up soon, but you can catch us in the meantime on the Bounce Checks podcast with myself, Isaiah, Josiane, Lance when he's able to join us. We also have guests there from time to time ranking the players and giving our opinions. So like Javier said, we have a double eviction tonight. We will have plenty to talk about. That will be released tomorrow. And then tomorrow, which is Friday, depending on when you're listening to us. And then you can also hear me talking about Real Housewives. There's a lot to talk about these days. We have trailers, we have drama, we have internet drama. There's plenty going on. So you can find me there with Carrie on the Cool Water Show. We release episodes every week talking about everything that's going on in the Real Housewives universe. And all of that is brought to you by Silent Podcasts. So feel free to, if you like what you hear, you can follow us on social media. We are on Twitch at Silent Podcasts if you would like to watch us live there. We are on YouTube at Silent Podcasts if you would like to watch us there. Just search Silent Podcasts and drop us a subscription if you would like to. And you can follow us on Twitter at Silent_Podcasts to get all of the information around what we're covering and when we go live. We have some good stuff also coming up. I know a lot of shows are coming to an end, but that just means more shows are beginning. So Survivor's coming back, Amazing Race is coming back. We have great coverage of all of that. We currently have coverage of Never Have I Ever. Andor, the Star Wars series, is coming out soon, so we will also be covering that. So we have plenty of stuff coming for you. So, and we'll of course be here on Fire and Pod for the rest of the season talking about all this stuff. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening, and please feel free to rate us, subscribe on wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a 5-star review if you like us. If you didn't, then just don't say anything. It's all good. And we will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.